Welcome to Vox Populi, the special we do every Monday, except we're doing it Tuesday today because of the gun situation down in Virginia. This is War Room Impeachment. It's episode 113, Vox Populi. Our number is 888-480-5646. We want to hear all your voices today as this impeachment process, this historic impeachment process, goes to the next level. Honored to be joined by my two wingmen, Raheem Kassam, the Chief Communications Strategist for Nigel Farage and the rise of UKIP, and also for the whole Brexit movement. And we're going to be asking questions, Raheem, today about Boris Johnson and Huawei, the upcoming Brexit on the 31st of January, and, of course, obviously, the plight of the Windsors, the Queen and Harry Hewitt, and everything that's going on there. Also, Jason Miller, who's Chief Communications Strategist for the Trump 2016 campaign and for the transition when President Trump went from candidate to president-elect to president of the United States. I think we can go. We got Oregon. Do we have Lucy? Lucy in Oregon. Lucy in Oregon. You're on Vox Populi, and I've promised today the producers I'm going to go quicker with callers and take more callers. How you doing, Lucy?
Doing well, thank you.
Hi.
How are you guys?
How can we help you?
So my question today is, it was my understanding from yesterday's show that there was just 3 senators that need encouragement and reminders of who they're working for. But it seems like today you guys were suggesting it might be 10. So I just wondered which one it was.
So, Lucy, thank you very much for the call. It's fantastic. You are paying attention. Now, here's the thing, is that there are 2 stories out. Number one, it has expanded out from 3 just on the basics of the impeachment, okay? And we're going to get to that in a second. It's probably 5 or 6 about calling witnesses. So, Lucy, I want to really thank you for that call. But, however, even more importantly, Tim Kaine is talking about potentially 10 senators on the War Powers resolution that came out of the House the other day. Now, Mark Meadows, Congressman Meadows, made a little news here in the previous hour. He said that he thought the math was wrong. That was more of a political ploy. But let's go to Lucy's point, guys, quickly, and then we'll get to some other callers. I know the boards are lighting up already. Our number is 888-480-5646, Vox Populi. And people should understand, they're paying attention in Washington, D.C. to your calls. This is one of the most popular segments we have. They're stunned by the quality of comments. They're stunned by it. Lucy comes right out of the bat. Hey, I heard it was 3. Now, is it more? Now I'm hearing 10. What's the problem with the unity situation here, Mr. Miller?
I think too many of our folks in the Senate have forgotten that they're not just a vote, they're a voice. And that's a little bit of a cliche, a little bit of a tagline that I've worked with a lot of candidates over the years where I said, make the case that you're not just going to go up there and vote, but you're going to be an advocate. You're going to get up there and fight. And so as you look through the list of Republicans in the Senate, some of our hardcore guys who've literally gone running, into the burning building with no plan on how they're going to get out. And they're pretty quiet right now. I mean, we know that Rand Paul has been out there in the last 24, 48 hours making a lot of noise, defending the president. We like it. We've had Senator Mike Braun in here, freshman senator from Indiana. We've had him on the show a couple of times. He's been doing a great job.
He's taking leadership here for a freshman senator.
He's taking leadership. But I'm looking at a lot of U.S. senators, and not just the ones that are being quiet, but I'm also looking at the ones like a John Cornyn, who's in leadership, for example, who, by the way, he's from Texas. I mean, he's not a 2020 guy in Colorado where he's got like a D+5 and he's got some tough race. I mean, he is a Republican senator in leadership. Why is he not going as hardcore as all get out to go and defend the president?
He's actually going the opposite direction. He's saying that the fire breathers in the House, the Gateses, the Meadows, the Jordans, the Lee Zeldins, the fire breathers would infect the Senate into a clown show.
And I think one other point to kind of go a little more specific to what Lucy's saying, let's take a Lamar Alexander from Tennessee, our friend. Who's
an institutionalist. Every time they use that term, I'm getting nervous.
He needs some love taps from his fellow Republican senators to say, hey, brother, your legacy is not going to be that you're some middle-of-the-road centrist guy. Your legacy If you go against the president here, it's going to be as a complete traitor, complete Benedict Arnold. That is going to be your legacy. You may have been cabinet secretary, you may have been governor, you may have worn a whole bunch of plaid, not done very well in a presidential race. That's not going to be your legacy. Your
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I.e., it's going to be very tough as a lobbyist, right, to get signed up and to get back into the White House and knock on some doors, right? That's the signal that's got to be sent to this guy.
Yeah, I mean, your only friend in town is going to be Jeff Flake. You guys will be in a two-man crew team out there on the Potomac.
And people should call Lamar Alexander's office. I mean, this thing's got to be lit up today and tomorrow, because it's game time. Game has gone. They're over there right now having and Mark Meadows also broke some other news and saying, in the very first segment of the show, saying, hey, I don't know if even Schiff, they're arguing about who's going to be on the manager's team from the Democrat side. Raheem, who's next?
I just want to come back to Lucy's question. So three that we're worried about on the impeachment side of things, 10 that Tim Kaine says are talking about the war powers thing. Are those two things linked? Can people, in your guys' estimation, can people go with the war powers thing in good conscience if they think the power of the president, not just this president, but any president, if they think it's too large on war powers, can they vote against or with the Democrats on this and still support the president on the impeachment stuff? Or do you think that the optics are such that and the political environment is such that you have to move in lockstep on all of this?
Well, Jason, I defer to you, but I think right now, look, there's a lot of good arguments to have a more thorough debate on war powers. Is now the time to do that? You're in the middle of a trial of the century about the crime of the century. Well, here's talking about being a voice. What I don't like coming out of the Senate, there's no turning the guns on the Democrats, right? This is outrageous what has happened. This is outrageous, given President Trump's national security policy that all these guys ran on. And Richard Burr, remember, he dragged 5 guys across the goal line. Mitch McConnell wouldn't be the leader if it was not for Trump. You know, you wouldn't have had Burr in North Carolina. You wouldn't have had Blunt in Missouri. You wouldn't have had Johnson in Wisconsin. Remember, the Wisconsin guys canceled on us on the last weekend because, you know, they were afraid Trump was going to, Johnson was down 3.5 points or whatever. And they thought it was going to drag him down more. No, the exact opposite happened. We won and Johnson won. He's leader because of Trump. And this is about this coming 2020. You need a strong President Trump. I think there's a lot of things on war powers. I'm one of these guys that says, hey, we've really got to rethink this whole Middle East thing. The Afghanistan paper said that is now the time to do that.
Okay, so practical question before we get the call boards are lit up, so we're going to take some calls. But just practical question, one-word answers from each of you guys. Should people like Rand Paul, who would naturally be inclined to limit the powers of the president as it comes to war, should they be voting no to the Democrat measure on this, or should they be abstaining from the vote?
I think abstention. And by the way, Rand Paul's probably the exception because he's been on this the entire time. I can see him on war powers. I'm talking about the other 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And this is it. Remember, Lucy made a good point. It's always been, we've been talking about Murkowski, we've been talking about Collins, talking about Mitt Romney. This thing, Lucy got it. This thing's expanded overnight.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're talking about Lamar Alexander. Yeah. You're talking about some potentially other people that weren't up there before, right? This thing on the impeachment side is starting to expand. That's negative, and the media is going to pile in on this today. Disunity in the Republican Party. Yeah. Guys like Cory Gardner, that now's names popping up on the list that hadn't been there before. That quote unquote, he's nervous that if he shows people in Colorado, well, that's bunk, right? The way you're going to win in Colorado is have a strong President Trump and an empowered and on fire Trump base. This is a mobilization election. Mr. Miller, I didn't want to take your time there.
No, I don't understand. So Senator McConnell has come out and said that he opposes the War Powers Resolution. Why don't we just shut it down? Why don't we just shut it down and not bring it up for a vote? I mean, right. We have the votes. We control it. We have enough to, the Democrats don't have enough to go enforce it via invoke cloture to break a filibuster. Why don't we shut it down?
Mm-hmm. I also think with Mark Levin and these guys that it's something that's never been tested on its constitutionality. And I'm not saying that the president should have unilateral powers. There's a lot to discuss about the Middle East, right? The president's got a program that's obviously working. The streets of Tehran are on fire. The streets of Beirut are on fire. We got these guys on their back heels. Maybe now's not the time to have the discussion. Who else we got on the boards?
Yeah, let's go to Richard in Washington State. Richard on line 1. Welcome to Vox Populi. Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam. Richard, do we have you?
Yep. Hi, Raheem.
Brilliant.
How you doing, sir?
Great. Hi, Steve. I'm a boomer, too.
Okay, Boomer. How can we help you today?
This war powers you were just talking about, because I was a boomer, I lived through 1979 through 1980 when they took over our embassy. And, everything pointed to that they were going to do that again. And Trump put a stop to it as opposed to
Brilliant.
444 days
Brilliant.
until Reagan came in.
Brilliant. So
And,
Richard, so you believe what he did with General Soleimani is to say no more Benghazis and no more hostages, no more 52 hostages in the embassy. You thought this was direct. It was very clear, no questions asked. Boom, the guy's a bad guy. They're already outside the embassy over that weekend. You don't need to hear imminent threat. You saw imminent threat, correct?
Yes, and what's amazing about it is a lot of your callers last week were, they go back to like when they took out Obama, Islam, Bin Laden, right?
Yep.
Well, back in '79, there's actually some video of the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite, and you can watch it, day 85, day 125, day 243, there's a lot of them.
Yep.
And it's really interesting to look back and see exactly how, how much Jimmy Carter was kind of a eunuch.
Oh no, he did. Richard. Richard, thank you so much. A great call. As a young naval officer, we were supposed to be in the Western Pacific in the South China Sea, and we were pulled to be in a carrier battle group in what was called Gonzo Station and Camel Station in the North Arabian Sea, off of Persia or Iran, and then to actually go into the Straits of through the Straits of Hormuz into the Persian Gulf in 1979 and 1980. And what people forget is like Nightline. Nightline started by doing day one, day two. Richard's right. Oh yeah, Nightline. The whole thing in Nightline started as the whole show is like war room impeachment. It started on one topic. It started every night to be a news summary at 11:30 at night after the local news was off to talk about the hostage crisis, and they would say day number 1, day number 4, day number 5. And Jimmy Carter, I was there for the workup to the hostage crisis, and you could tell at the time this thing didn't look like a particularly well organized, and it clearly brought down his presidency. And what Rich is saying, hey, Donald Trump moved with alacrity. It was what we call boldness. How are we doing on other callers?
We got a full call board. I want to make sure that people are still calling in. Steve, what's the number?
888-480-5646. Vox Populi. Got Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller, Stephen K. Bannon.
I cannot stress this enough. This show is now the second or third largest conservative show in the country on Apple Podcasts across the board. Your voices are being listened to. If you want to have your say, if you want to make sure the people in Washington, D.C., not just your lawmakers, but the media classes as well are listening, make sure you're calling us, 888-480-5646. Beth is in North Carolina online for Beth. You've got Steve Bannon, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam.
How can we help you, ma'am?
Yes, I just wanted to call in and talk about Congressman Meadows' comment on the dismissal. I think that he's absolutely correct that we should attempt that dismissal as soon as possible within the rules of the Senate. I think the Constitution is clear on the specific requirements, which is the bribery, the high crimes, and the misdemeanors. But most importantly, and I think we all keep forgetting this, that House investigation process was illegitimate. We have a rule of law, and the accused, our president, was denied the opportunity to defend himself during that House investigation. He had no opportunity to cross-examine any of those witnesses, and he was denied the ability to call his own witnesses. And let's stop and think about that process. We are now going to the Senate for a trial for this president with depositions that are only one-sided. I think that is horrible. And Nancy Pelosi already said the other night on television, she already expressed her victory. You see, because we are allowing this illegal process and we are not stopping it, our president has already been branded as an impeached president. I know he's going forward to a trial, and I hear Steve every single day, and I love you guys. But I'm telling you, it is not the American people that are going to get to vote this time. It's going to be a bunch of senators, and half of America, if not 75% now, does not even trust these senators with what they're going to vote on. So I say, let's save our Constitution for future presidents. We have got to stop it in its tracks and let the entire country know that our Constitution stands. Our founding fathers know exactly what was said and why they decided on impeachment. Nancy Pelosi has totally destroyed the Constitution in terms of those impeachment requirements. And so we've got to save our Constitution. I don't want to see our Constitution picked apart and rewritten one step at a time by this crazy-ass progressive movement.
Beth, hang on for a second. Right there is a better, more succinct argument than you've heard anywhere on cable TV, any analysis. This is the power of the show. You let the American people talk. Beth in North Carolina comes in and lays out in about 90 seconds, right, exactly what the issues are. Raheem Birch, jump in. I'm going to go back to Beth. Beth, just one thing. Can you tell the nation, because there may be some people out there listening that don't know, what did Nancy Pelosi say specifically the other night that you just referred to? Give the quote that Nancy Pelosi said that got you so worked up, but just you can see the meme and the narrative that they're going to drive.
She was very gleeful about it. She says, yes, well, we're going to do this and that in the Senate, but you know what? He's forever brand, an impeached president. I'm sorry. It set me off, and it set off an awful lot of people. That is the truth of it. Forever has that brand, and it's wrong. It's wrong because of the process. No process in the beginning. It was real easy to brand him, wasn't it? Because nobody got to cross-examine anybody in any of those hearings down in the basement of the House. Makes me sick.
Beth, I have a follow-up question for you, if you don't mind. I really appreciate the
Sure.
passion
Sorry,
and the.
I don't mean to be so aggressive.
No,
Exactly.
hold on. Beth, you keep going. You're going to be on the Trump's team. Trust me. You're going to be in the well of the Senate. This is exactly. You're a fire breather.
No.
We need fire breathers.
That's what we call a master class, Beth. So don't go worrying about all that. Beth, I have a question for you. You are very, very passionate, and rightly so, about protecting the U.S. Constitution in all of this. Not just this president, but the Constitution in all of this. But your approach to saving the Constitution is a dismissal of the trial in the Senate, effectively. What if I were to say to you this? There is an established class of people here in Washington, D.C., that it has never been so easy to get to as it is when they say, we're putting the foreign policy of the president on trial. They've put their heads above the parapet now. Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, Fiona Hill, all of these guys who stood up there in the House and they said, we disagree with this president because he's breaching U.S. foreign policy, despite the fact that it's the U.S. president himself who sets U.S. foreign policy, right? So you have them now at your fingertips. You have the ability to hold a long trial and put all these people up there and put what they stand for on trial to make it clear that they are the stewards of managed decline, to make it clear that they have been coining in from Ukraine, from China, all around the world. Isn't that saving the U.S. Constitution, Beth?
Well, I wish that were true, but you see, we had the corrupt process in the House, and there is the potential for a corrupt process in the Senate. We don't know what witnesses are going to be called, and I'm sorry. I've been paying attention to secret empires. I've been paying attention to the last 2.5 years of the money laundering going on with senators sending foreign policy monies over there to all these poor countries and getting kickbacks, and I'm tired of it. And so when Steve constantly is telling the American public that that the people are going to be the jury, well, Steve, the reality is that's not true. I wish it were, but the American people know it's not true. There are 100 senators sitting there, and there is a handful, if not more, who have, this is not a fair and open-minded jury we're walking into. This is people with baggage, and their baggage is to protect their cash flow. And I'm afraid, I am absolutely afraid. We keep saying we want this trial because in the end we know that fairness wins, but fairness has been thrown out the window in this country. And 50% or 60% of the American people know at this point in time, where is the person who could really fight the corruption? You only get these people who are committing these crimes if they get indicted. Where is that happening? We cannot accomplish any indictments or prosecuting any people, even if they have this Senate where they can have their trial and all of that. There is no power of the Congress to be able to get these people and put them in jail where they belong. You don't stop bad behavior if you keep allowing it to happen. We have got to have these
Beth,
cycles.
hang on. We only got 2 minutes left, and by the way, I want my producer to get your number
I'm
because we want to do a
sorry.
little profile of you because we're going to put this up today. But real quickly,
And email.
Real quickly, Senator Braun said if we do a quick dismissal for like the people, the Hoosiers out in Indiana, people in the Tar Heels in North Carolina, if we do a quick dismissal, Nancy Pelosi will then be able to say, hey, it was totally rigged. They had the votes. They were gutless and they didn't want to have a trial. What do you say to that? On the quick dismissal, which you've made a very passionate, logical, and great argument, how do you counter what Senator Braun says, hey, I know we can do that and we should do that because it's corrupt. However, they will continue to hammer Trump that you hid behind your votes in the Senate. You didn't want to do it. What say you, Beth?
I say the president was denied his right to defend himself at the very beginning. This thing should be thrown out, start again, do it right, and then we'll talk about it. Nancy.
Beth in North Carolina, I want the producers to grab your number. Hang on, Beth. They're going to get your number here. Put her on hold and grab her number. I want to thank you. Don't punch out on her. Get her number. We're going to take a short commercial break. Raheem, how do people get more of the site?
By the
Show's on
way,
fire.
that is how you hit a fastball. Okay,
Oh, yeah, that was just- come on,
Beth
come on.
raised the bar for the quality of these calls. Everybody has to be on the triggers.
I didn't want to say the show next week's going to be Miller, Beth, and Bannon. I hate
Yeah,
this.
I'm out.
No,
I'm out. I'm tapping out.
No, you
I'm
know what?
doing
No,
Beth.
you know what? I like the English accent. Maybe Miller that punches. We don't need Karl Rove. We don't need Karl Rove. We don't need the Karl Rove voice. We need a female.
The phone number here, ladies and gentlemen, 888-480-5646. It's 888-480-5646. Vox Populi. Everything you need to know is at warroom.org. We'll be right back after this short break.
War Room. Impeachment.
Welcome back to Vox Populi. Our number is 888-480-5646 here in the War Room. We're live on Capitol Hill. There's action going on. Before we go to the boards, let's get an update. Jason Miller, Raheem, what's going on? A lot breaking.
Yeah, so Speaker Pelosi at the Democratic caucus meeting this morning said that tomorrow on Wednesday will be the actual vote to go and send over that will be the vote on the resolution to appoint the managers. ABC is reporting, I thought this was interesting, that it's expected to be Schiff and then Jerry Nadler, my good friend.
Wow.
Will be
Non-primetime Nadler.
No, and so obviously there are going to be additional folks who will be named to it, and I imagine that.
So should we now put Corey Lewandowski on the president's team since Nadler had the biggest epic fail in human history? I thought Mueller was the biggest fail, but Corey Lewandowski bench pressed this guy.
if they have Shifty Schiff and Nadler, and this
Not
is
a good look.
No,
This is not a good look.
This is like bump and thump, coming out here like what?
I just if
First
you-
off,
if you-
Beth raised the level here. People, you got to be bringing A game because Beth in North Carolina just went yard.
No, she blew us away. If you heard us scrambling to get back on air after the break, we were talking about Beth's call all through the break, and we're really grateful.
I was renegotiating Jason's deal, behind the thing. So I think Beth's going to be your replacement here.
Phone number is 888-480-5646 for the next hour and a half. We are live with Vox Populi, the voice of the people. Want to go back to the call boards now. Let's go to Tinley in California on line 3. Tinley, you have Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam.
How can we help you?
Oh, good morning, guys. I just want to say I love you. I just wanted to say how Nancy Pelosi slow walked and did all that secretive stuff over the Obamacare. And now it seems like with the articles of impeachment, she's done the same thing to put everybody in a rush and a panic, and they can't get their strategy out to the people and, seen.
Do you think, Tinley, that, I keep calling her a master political strategist. Do you think, given the facts that she had from her perspective, what she did was smart in slow walking this?
Well, yes, to put everybody in a panic. To put everybody in a panic and to try to come up with something else. And for our Republicans, what's the definition of insanity? The same thing over and over and expecting different results. So what's wrong with our Republicans? I live in California. If I refuse to sign a ticket from a police officer, I could go to jail. But Nancy Pelosi and all these bozos do whatever they want, and they're just free.
When you said, real quickly, Tinley, when you said do the same thing over and over again, what do you see the Republicans doing that you think is insanity?
Oh, they do the same old thing. They try to do a deal with these idiots, with these Democrats. There's not going to be a deal. They're just wasting their time. It's like, get a strategy, get a plan, and go on the attack. Do it.
Tinley in California.
We're waiting.
Thank you.
We're waiting.
Thank you very much. Fantastic call. I want to go to you, Jason. What Tinley's saying, this is what I don't understand. Tinley and Beth represent the best of the Trump movement and the Trump base, right? And they're saying it's so obvious you got to throw down and fight that every time you try to compromise, you lose. And the reason we lose is that we've got the numbers. You made the great point of the War Powers Act. Don't we have the majority? I mean, what is the gap? Because you're a professional, been doing this for a long time. What is the gap, and why does it still persist between what the voters and the base wants and what actually happens here in Washington?
Because when folks get to the Senate, they lose about 100 IQ points, and they believe that they are in this separate, privileged, rare air that normal gravity doesn't apply to them.
Is that the Lamar Alexander, I'm an institutionalist now?
Yeah. And I would say even going to the folks, take a Cory Gardner or Susan Collins or anyone, as we've discussed a couple times over the last day or so, anyone who's up for a tough race in 2020 thinking that they're so big and so powerful that if they take some vote against President Trump, then all of a sudden independent voters are going to rush to them and like them and say, thank you for standing up against President Trump. Well, no. If you're in a tough seat in 2020 and you want to get reelected, you want a strong President Trump at the top of the ticket. But Steve, to your point, to our last couple of callers here, it is the Senate is completely ignoring and rejecting the will of the people. And this is why you see a much higher turnover rate for U.S. Senate than you do for the House. Because what happens in the House is you're up for a re-election every 2 years. It might seem like...
So you're constantly running.
You're constantly running. Now, that is brain damage. That's, as far as the process of being constantly up for re-election. But you're much more in tune to the people. There's positives and negatives that come for that. But the Senate, when they're only up once every 6 years, they get up here, they lose the IQ points, they believe they're in this privileged class. I don't have to worry about this pesky continual reelection. They get disconnected from reality, and that's why they get knocked off, like I said, at a higher rate than members of the House do.
Our number is 888-480-5646. It's Vox Populi, which means it's Latin for voice of the people from the days of the Roman Republic. This is the way that the Senate got the word of what the people wanted. Raheem, who's next?
We've got a Russell in North Carolina on line one. Russell, you have Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam. Do we have you, Russell?
Yeah, Raheem, hi. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing, Russell?
Good. Let me turn this volume down. Listen, I just wanted to state a quote, actually from G.K. Chesterton, that all morality is a devotion to a thing. And what I mean by that is that if you're not devoted to principles of liberty, then you're given over to tyranny. And for these senators like Romney, Collins, and Murkowski, they have no guiding principles because they're even allowing this impeachment to go forward, which we know is unconstitutional. And so. I just wanted to state that they don't have any kind of guide. They're not devoted to liberty. And the other thing that I wanted to state too.
Well, let me before you get off that point, don't you find it ironic that the streets of Tehran are exploding and Hong Kong's exploding in a rejection of the dictatorship and authoritarian governments that run that, and really supporting this idea of liberty and particularly standing up to tyranny? I mean, in Hong Kong and Tehran today, they are like the Patriots of 1775. Don't you find it ironic that millennials have taken to the streets there to say we will not live like this any longer? Yet in the United States, we're just kind of going along, and you see even the Republican Party and elected officials of the Republican Party are sitting there, you're saying, not guided by any principles. Do you find that ironic?
Well, it's not only ironic, but it's like, they're having an awakening. Here in America, people are slumbering through and not realizing just what is at stake. If your liberty, you can see on the other side what they're promoting. They're promoting socialism, which we all know is a dictatorial I mean, socialism and Islam are the same thing, just packaged in a different manner. And for people to even be considering something like that, it just shows you just how far we've come from our forefathers.
What would real quickly, Russell? We got to get to other real quickly. What would the founders say about this situation in the impeachment? What would the founders? So the founders were here, and this was going to the Senate as it's going to go on. Looks like on Thursday. What would the framers say about this situation?
Well, because we know it's unconstitutional. It didn't meet the constitutional standard. This ought to be just thoroughly dismissed because you don't want to set any kind of precedence, for this kind of type of impeachment going forward. And another thing that I do want to add.
Hang on, we got Russell. I tell you what, we got one per customer. You're fantastic. We got to let you go. Thank you very much. I want to turn to the guys though and talk about was Russell saying on principle. Forget the politics and the media spin of the dismissal. What Mike Braun's saying is important, but you got to go above that. What Beth and Russell I think are saying on principle alone, it must be dismissed. You must call the votes together and dismiss this because that's what the framers would want. We understand Braun, understand even what we're saying is that, hey, the media spin that she will have will continue to make it part of the permanent impeachment process that she'll say that's a stain that never went away. I think what they're saying is that as important as that is, for future presidents, this must be dismissed because the way it's been handled to date. I want your both comments.
The whole truth is generally the ally of virtue. A half-truth is always the ally of some vice. That's another Chesterton quote for Russell there. And that brings me back
Give me that
to
again. I got to hear that
the
again.
whole truth is generally the ally of virtue. A half-truth is always the ally of some vice. And that is why I believe a full trial and not a half trial, not a dismissal.
God, that's what we got you here, Raheem. Great catch there. Mr. Miller.
Yeah, so our last two callers are exactly right. I mean, at this point, it should be dismissed because there's just nothing there. But it's not going to happen. I mean, we've unfortunately Republicans are apparently.
Are you pretty stunned by that? That even I'm not saying you should dismiss, but the option to this is what's so stunning, and this is what the Trump base, the Trump deplorables. We're going to try to get some phone numbers for these senators. You got to be lighting up the board to your senators today. And not just if you've heard their name on this show as either the War Powers Act or about this, the five. Now, as Lucy said, hey, it was 3. You guys are now telling me it's 5 or more. What's going on here? You got to call your senator and state where you are. Because for the president not to have the option to dismiss is stunning to me, given how he came out of the House with so much momentum.
And in particular, I think Senator John Cornyn from Texas could use a phone call. His office number is 202-224-2934. Let me explain why. He was just on Fox News a few moments ago. I have the transcript in front of me. And again, this is the TVI's transcript, so there might be like 1 or 2 words that are slightly off, but they're, I would say, like 95% accurate.
Check against delivery.
So Bill Hemmer, the great host there,
good guy,
says to Cornyn, on the topic of witnesses, do you want witnesses or not? Like right to the point. Senator Cornyn says, sure. There are different forms of witnesses, Bill. There's sworn testimony. 70 witnesses, I think you testified under oath in the House. I think obviously that number's a little off. That will be transcribed and available for the impeachment managers to present in the Senate. We're going to vote after both sides have had a chance to make the presentation on whether there should be additional witnesses beyond what the president's lawyers and the impeachment managers wanted, just as there was during the Clinton. And then Hemmer jumps in and says, in December, you warned of unintended consequences of having witnesses. I think the words were, witnesses say the darndest things. What do you mean by that? And Cornyn says, I spent 13 years of my life as a state court judge in Texas, and they can be unpredictable. That is why I think people need to be careful about this notion of presenting brand new live witnesses during the course of an impeachment trial. But there are different ways to present witness testimony. There'll be witnesses that testify for both sides. I just don't think we should have a continuation of the circus-like atmosphere we've seen in the House. He quadrupled down, and here's the thing that makes me...
He said that on live television?
On Fox News. Fox News. I'm sorry, Senator Cornyn. Have you not seen President Trump's tweets for weeks now? But here's the thing. This notion of presenting brand new live witnesses. So literally but he'd have no problem in a Mulvaney or a Bolton, or it's unintended consequences of Trump called witnesses.
Exactly, of the whistleblower. Let's go back and give his number again, because he definitely needs more than a call. He needs a wake up call.
Yeah, Senator John Cornyn from the state of Texas, 202-224-2934. again going on Fox News, talking about the circus-like atmosphere of the trial. Nancy Pelosi is getting ready to send over Adam Schiff and Jerry Nadler.
Senator Cornyn, that circus-like, in quotes, atmosphere is what brought not one Republican defection. And I would say the decorum, it was heated, but it was certainly not a circus. It was heated. Jordan, Gates, Zeldin, Meadows, Collins, Radcliffe. You saw this was Stefanik. This was not a circus-like atmosphere. The circus was what the Democrats were doing. What you saw, order and discipline and focus and fire from the Republicans. That's why we had no defections.
And what is happening when you have literally Will Hurd and Francis Rooney being more hardcore than Senator John Cornyn from Texas?
How can they say, Steve Castor, right, going up there and producing an evidentiary record, going line by line. There wasn't the big screaming kickoffs like a lot of media commentators expected. Going line by line like that. Elise Stefanik, Will Hurd. How can they call that a circus? It was not a circus.
It's a disgrace.
Okay, what they did, what the House Republicans did, was they effectively tried that case to the extent of the powers that they had. They did a phenomenal job to the point where it even led a Democrat to leave the Democrat Party and join the Republican Party as a result of all of that. And these senators are pouring cold water on that?
Look, we take calls from all over the world, and we're very proud of that. This show has really become something that people can hear. It's 888-480-5646. But I would request today, the first request we made, people from Colorado, people from Texas, people from Tennessee, and people from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Of those 4 states, we'll try to give you guys priority. Texas, Colorado, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Lamar Alexander, Cory Gardner, John Cornyn, and, of course, the beloved Mitch McConnell. But I tell you, John Cornyn, to go on Fox and to say circus-like environment, I mean, why don't you just say, you should have said, in fact. You should have used my favorite word. What did Meadows say? Nancy Pelosi's needle, right? He's done the infection. Raheem, who we got?
Ray is in Michigan on line 2. Ray, you have Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, Raheem Kassam. Good morning.
How you doing, Ray?
Good morning, brother. Hey, normally I'd ask you if I could take the con, but I think Beth has already taken the con.
Yeah. You got big-footed. That's okay.
And Steve, you know that I was one of the first people that were calling for a full trial in the Senate.
Yep.
Okay? That's not going to happen. McConnell's job is to get every single Republican senator to vote, and that vote needs to be for dismissal. This process has been bastardized by Pelosi from the beginning.
You're not buying, hang on, you're not buying, okay, all she's going to do is go on TV right afterwards and say, hey, totally rigged. They're going to play that clip that MSNBC's got in a loop now. Mitch McConnell saying, I'm taking orders from the White House. I'm in conjunction with the White House. Do you don't think that offsets versus the principle of the way the framers would want this? That has been a totally debauched process so far. You just got to blow it out and show total contempt by voting dismissal. You think that's more important than what Pelosi and these guys are going to do to try to smear him for the 2020 campaign?
We've got it. No, they're not going to get anything done. Did you watch the football game last night? Did you see this chance of USA when the president took the field? The American people are behind the president on this. The communist Democrats are never going to vote Republican. It's all about the base and the independents. We need a 53 vote for dismissal in the Senate. Let's move on. We've got an election coming up. Our job is to reelect Donald J. Trump. Pelosi's all done.
Thank you, sir.
I say vote for dismissal.
Vote for dismissal is fantastic. We want to hear vote for. We want to these callers. We want to know 888-480-5646. Dismissal. Short trial with just the Democrat witnesses like Bolton, or do you want the whole enchilada? Long trial and put the Democrats, put the permanent political class, put their business model, put anti-Trump national security policy, put it all on trial with the whistleblower, the second whistleblower, the IG report, and where's Hunter? Raheem.
I'm very concerned about this. And it's a great call, but I'm concerned about it. How many people voted in 2016?
That we had 63.5 million. She had 67, 120, 130 million people.
How many do we think Up to how
They're,
many?
they're talking 140, 50. But John McLaughlin, 160 million people. The turnout in this is an 18 record turnout.
And
right?
we're going to allow via a dismissal. We're going to allow whoever the candidate is, Mike Bloomberg maybe with his $1 billion war chest and all of his voter data that he's getting. We're going to allow them to run on the basis that we dismissed a trial in the Senate.
Okay, I want to go back. I want to go. I want to go back to you two guys. This is, I think the, our listeners are coached up, right? These have been very sophisticated calls, all of them. Here's the question before you: do you take a principled stand like the framers want and think down the decades and the years to say, on a principled basis, forget the politics of it? It was a botched process, like Beth and Rich just walked us through. Ray just walked us through. Dismiss it out of hand and take the political consequences, or do you think about, hey, if we don't win 2020, it's all for naught anyway. We got to understand she's going to smear us. They're going to have that continuous loop that was rigged and try to get those 1 or 2% that either would stay home or this is a big decision. So do you take the principle part, or do you take the practical politics part? Raheem, you first, and then Jason.
If you want to drain the swamp, then you don't back away from the tap, from the spigot, right when it's in your purview, right when it's in front of you. You have to take this opportunity to have all of these arguments out. Otherwise, the Hunter Biden stuff, the whistleblower stuff, the all the billets across the federal government of the Obama holdovers and all of that gets to remain. This is the opportunity. Seize it.
Jason Miller.
Yeah, I'd like to have.
And you're a constitutional. By the way, you've made your entire career on the Ted Cruz's of the world, supporting those guys, getting them in Congress, fighting. A lot of races you lost in primaries, but you were always the guy from the limited government, constitutional conservative, the traditional CPAC crowd, right? So you fought for the constitutionalist, the limited government, conservative constitutionalist your entire life. What say you, sir?
Even ran ads against Lamar Alexander in his last primary. So I have tried, folks. I have tried, and I have the scars to prove it. Look, purely from a constitutional side of things and for legal precedent going forward, they should go and dismiss these and get rid of them. But that's just not going to happen because Republicans don't control the Senate. That's just the reality at the moment.
You don't think because we don't have the 60 votes and he won't use the nuclear option on this?
Correct. Here's what we do have the power to effect. Is if we're going to go and fully exonerate President Trump with a real trial. That is what we have the power to impact right now. That's what we should be doing. None of this infecting, the House infecting it, or let's call it their witnesses but not our witnesses. Like Rand Paul said, do not think that you're going to have some kind of trial and only have the witnesses the Democrats want.
We only got a couple of minutes we're going to go, but this is the Kafka-esque situation we find ourselves in. The worst option is the option we're going to choose. Not dismissal, which we had Stones. You'd still have that as an option. He doesn't have Stones, so he's not going to do it. So you can't dismiss. You don't have the votes. You can't get the 60, and he won't use the nuclear option, okay? So the constitutional part, which I would argue you might want to really think about and do because it didn't throw it back in their face. You didn't have a case. The long trial, which is, hey, let him have Bolton, let him have Mulvaney, let him have all the emails, let him have vote, bring up all the OMB guys, and hey, throw in a couple of SecDef guys too. All of it. We don't care. What's the worst thing you're going to say? Versus whistleblower, number 2 whistleblower, which is still in Trump's head, right? Then number 2.
Where they disappeared to. Shift. You got the IG report. You got Hunter Biden. I bring Joe Biden and get the whole thing up there too. The third option, the middle option, which is the worst option for the president, that's the one they're going to, which is a short trial with a couple of witnesses that happen to be the negative witnesses for the president. How did we get in this situation? We're going to come back and we want people throughout the nation to throw in here. It's Vox Populi, 888-480-5646. Raheem, how can people get to the site and get more information on this?
Yep, warroom.org. We obviously write up all the best bits from the show as well. So if you have something to say, it could be on warroom.org. We really appreciate all the callers to this show. Everybody that's leaving comments, that's leaving reviews on Spotify, Apple iTunes, all across the board. We are very grateful. I want to give a special shout out also to the partners linking in, the Bongino report linking into the site, whatfinger.com, another aggregator linking into the site, Rantingly, all of those guys. We're very, very grateful for all
And
the
also,
traffic.
we're up on the homepage of Jim Hoff and the guys over at Gateway Pundit, or Michael Lynch's, Michael Leahy's group, etc. Okay, back in a moment with Vox Populi.
War Room Impeachment with Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, and Raheem Kassam. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
We're live from Capitol Hill. This is War Room Impeachment, Vox Populi. This is where we provide the news, you provide the opinion on throughout the nation on the items of the day, particularly this impeachment. The calls today have just been amazing. My phone's already blown up for people. Remember, a lot of media and a lot of sophisticated political operatives, and particularly people in these House and Senate offices, are listening to this live, and they're getting put on notice. So I want to get the general number. Our number is 888-480-5646. I've promised our producers I'm going to be quicker on the call. Just remember, if you're on hold, I'm going to get to you. We got to jump on it, and I can't spend as much time as I want to with each caller. Do we have the general number that we can give the main number out to the United States Senate so callers out there can just call and then ask for their senator? Raheem, do we have that number?
Jason, you must know that off by heart, right?
By heart, 202-224-3121. And then on the House, if you ever want it, it's just the 225-3121. So it's a 224 prefix. So 202-224-3121. Call up there. Be very nice. They're very nice and respectful people, because the switchboard aren't necessarily the members that you're frustrated with, and say, I'd like to be transferred to Senator Cornyn's office. Then they'll transfer you over, and then let them know what you think about this infection from the House side. The apparent desire to let the Democrats call their witnesses but not have Trump call his witnesses. Basically just roll over and play dead.
Unbelievable. Okay, let's go to Orlando. I want to feel better, so I want to go to some callers. They always make me... Orlando, Tony in Orlando, Florida. Tony, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Steve. I love your guys' show. You guys are great.
Thank you, brother.
I believe, what was it, over the weekend when President Trump said he had was thinking about wanting a dismissal of the trial?
Yes.
Well, I believe that was a bait for the swamp creatures that they took, because for how long have we been talking about that we've been hearing that they wanted to dismiss the case?
Yep.
You know, because they don't want to be put on trial themselves. Because this whole thing is Trump exposing the corruption in Washington.
Wow.
That's what all it comes down to.
Okay, go back real quickly, because go back through. This is genius. You're saying that you think Trump, in playing four-dimensional chess here, you're saying to smoke him out for the first time, because he was not a dismissed guy. He was I want a trial. I want witnesses. All of a sudden, you're following along at home. He says, "Hey, I think I want a dismissal."
And guess which swamp creature came down? Romney. He comes out against it.
Tony, thank you very much, brother. We gotta go to just a genius call.
You know what would be great? If we could go and get a whole bunch of deplorables together to build the stage to then go fire Romney. We built the stage right here in DC.
What do you mean, like he did the private equity King of Bain?
Like
the King of Bain.
Yeah, when it was Indiana, or they.
You know what I'd like to have, though? What I'd like to have is the collection of callers we've had today in the strategy room. I mean, this is what we try to do with War Room Impeachment. But the Vox Populi, we have to start doing this every day. It's amazing. I think Tony might be right. I think Tony, but the president, because Trump never does any of these tweets that he hasn't thought through. He wanted to draw him out, so he does the dismissal thing. Raheem, what's that? You think that's too sophisticated, or I love the fact that Tony's playing chess with Nancy Pelosi here, right?
I don't think it's too sophisticated. It certainly hadn't occurred to me. It's a pretty viable.
Well, not viable. It worked. He's absolutely correct.
No, I mean, also, as a theory, it works.
He smoked him, but Romney, the traditionalist Lamar Alexander, right? So, Lucy starts to show up by saying, "Hey, I thought it was 3." Now all of a sudden it's like 5 or 6. How did that happen? Think Tony might be right. I want to hear your opinion if you guys support Tony or not in his thinking on dismissal. 888-480-5646. We're going to go to New Hampshire. And Sean in New Hampshire, you're on Vox Populi with Raheem, Jason, and Steve. How can we help you, sir?
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Doing great, brother. What you got?
So, it has been very apparent since day one that no matter what we do, there's going to be another avalanche that falls. From day one that Trump has been in office, they have hit him with scandal after scandal after scandal. And every time we debunk one, the next one comes. So why don't we take the long trial? At least we know what we're fighting going into 2020 versus if we dismiss this thing, the next, who knows who's going to come out of the apparatus next with what they're going to come with.
Brilliant. Okay, real quickly for the nation, Sean, in the long trial to stop the next avalanche, tell me the 1 or 2 things that you think that you could prove now with the lawyers in that trial. What are the 2 witnesses you want to call, and what are you trying to bring forward that breaks the apparatus?
I want the whistleblower, and I want the IG that took his report, who changed the date, who changed the rules, and I want to know why he changed the date, why he changed the rules, and I want to know why the whistleblower disappeared, and why the apparatus went and hid from what they were alleging, but sent out Fiona Hill's, Vindman's, and everybody else. Because all that happens once this goes away is the next round of Fiona Hill's and Vindman's comes out.
Sean in New Hampshire, thank you very much. Okay, this is the bid and the ask, right? He lays out the case. Beth's on one side, Sean in New Hampshire is the other. You got a shot, is what Raheem said a second ago. You got a shot to take on the apparatus, expose it all. Why are we not going down that path? Mr. Jason Miller.
Because I think you have a couple things. I think you have too many senators who are worried that
Why is President Trump is a driver of action. President Trump's always best on offense, as you know. He's a greatest counterpuncher ever, but he's always best on offense. Why are we not driving this right now? Why are we not banging heads and saying, hey, this is what I want?
Because too many senators are disconnected from reality. They're worried about how they perceive their path forward in their own political futures. When, number one, it's short-sighted. You need a strong President Trump if you want to have a strong 2020 candidate in a tough state. But I think too many of these folks are just chicken. They're afraid of the fight.
There's nobody out there on the Senate side, on the House side, or in the White House who has a whiteboard with a list of names on it of people that should be gone after. People who have exploited the country, who have exploited their positions, who have used U.S. foreign policy in their own personal financial interest. If you had watchers watching the watchers here in Washington, D.C.
Who watches the watchmen?
Right. Then you would have a particular set of avenues to pursue here, and you would know where you're going. You see, we know here where this should go, but this is a very small room. The audience out there knows where this investigation about the swamp should go. But for whatever reason, they don't feel that they are necessarily empowered in Washington, D.C., or they're not empowered in Washington, D.C. But the people who are in the positions, like the Lamar Alexanders, like the Mitch McConnells, like the Mitt Romneys, they have a vested interest in not watching the watchmen.
The business model they don't want to expose. Let me go, before I go to callers, I want both you guys to jump in for a second. What about the concern of the people who are saying, hey, if we could have a full trial, and we could actually have those witnesses, and we could actually do it in a fair and equitable manner that Schiff and those guys get to cross them, but if we actually got the whistleblower, if we actually got Horowitz in the IG report, if we actually got Hunter Biden, I'm all in. But you guys are fools. It's not going to happen. So therefore, we must dismiss and take the thing. Do you believe you could actually get the trial? If President Trump wanted it, do you actually think he could get the trial that the country needs?
You would have to go a lot further than their original negotiating position, right? If they started by saying, we're not just going to call whistleblower and Hunter Biden, but they went even further than that. to Crazy Town, maybe.
You mean John Brennan and Clapper and that?
No, go even further than that. Say we're going to put Hillary Clinton up there. Say we're going to put Bill Clinton up there. Say we're going to put Vindman up there. Say throw all these crazy names out there that would make the Democrats' head spin, that would make Chris Cuomo's eyes widen even worse, right? Do that, and then you get back to a negotiating position that could put the whistleblower up there. But we started with what we wanted, and that doesn't work in negotiation.
You know, that's also President Trump 101 is never start with what you want. Start with that. That's what he told Theresa May. Overshoot the target on the negotiation because it's always going to back up over time on Brexit. Overshoot the target. Of course, she didn't write it down, and that's why she's not the prime minister anymore. Let's go to. We still got. We've got John. Is it John in Virginia?
We do not have John. John
Okay.
dropped. We'll go. We got Bob in Arizona on line 4. Bob, you're on Vox Populi with Steve Bannon, Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. Bob, do we have you?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Hey, how you doing, sir? How can we help you this morning?
I'm doing great. Hey, I just wanted to talk about the long trial versus the short trial.
Yes, sir.
I think that the long trial is the way to go. I think that a lot of the Republicans are afraid of the any of the corruption that is happening on their side of the aisle coming to the public. I think that
you think the permanent political class does not want this on trial because all of a sudden they're going to be blowback on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm from Arizona. I watched John McCain for a lot of years, and I don't think he is a conservative. I'm not a big advocate of John McCain. I think there's as much bad stuff going on with the Republicans, the long-term Republicans, as there are with the.
So let's say that comes out in the trial. If you're as a voter and as somebody out there that identifies, I think, as a Republican, let's say that stuff comes out in this trial. To you, what does that mean?
Let it go. The name of your show is War Room, man. It's not nice decorum room. It's let it happen and let the chips fall where they do, right? I'm more in favor of something along the lines of a truth and reconciliation type of trial than I am.
Dude.
And I am just
you're genius.
My nightmare scenario.
You're genius.
Is that they have a short trial and everything just goes back to the way it was.
Hold on. We got to get this mean. Truth and reconciliation. You're saying from the worst days over in apartheid and all that, you had to, because the boil had to be lanced. For the country to go forward, you needed an inflection point. And that inflection point had to take place in a trial where it all came out. And then afterwards, there was a reconciliation because you took the nation to the next level. Is that what you're saying, Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. Open it all up. Oh, just open it all up. Let's see the ugliness on both sides, because I think as I've watched this thing go through for the last several years, and I have the luxury of actually having some time available, and I watch it very closely. I just see ugly behavior on all parts, both the Republicans and the Democrats, and particularly the permanent bureaucracy.
Okay,
and I say just open it all up, and because I think that there are a lot of moderate Democrats who voted for Trump in the hopes that we could get back to something that is I don't know what to call it. Just that is I hate the trite phrase, but the American way. It's about principle, and it's about what we stand for as a country. And I just look at the whole system now. This whole thing I'm not inspired, so I just want it all to come out.
Before we let you go, I want to ask a practical political question. If the trial you're asking about goes on through March into April into May, and now we're in the 2020 season, what do you say? How long should this trial take? And do you cut it off, or if it takes all the way up to October, November, it takes what it takes because it's truth and reconciliation? What do you say, Bob?
I say I'm kind of done with the practical political considerations. Nothing drives me more insane than talking about, oh, well, we got to get this guy in, and this guy can say this, and it's just let it all out, and practical politics be damned, because I think that we're beyond that.
Bob in Arizona, thank you very much. A fabulous call. I want to thank you. I want to turn to my colleagues. We're going to take more calls in a second, but I got to tell you, another truth and reconciliation. He's saying, hey, it's enough happy talk. It's enough of this little, putting these things in these little slots and MSNBC and even Fox. Forget it. Let's get it all. If it takes 6 months, if it takes 8 months, you get all the witnesses up there, you do your thing, you get it up there. And by the way, if stuff blows up on the Republicans, it blows up on the Republicans, because this is deeper than all that.
And War Room Impeachment with Bannon, Bob, and Beth will be live tomorrow.
No, I don't make the cut there. I think we keep the British accent. It's probably Raheem, Bob, and Beth in North Carolina, Bob in Arizona, the new show. Jason, I'll be back in the War Room.
Yeah.
Hey, tell Maxie, get out of my seat. All right? I'm gonna be pulling
You have
stuff.
to teach you how to use a laptop first.
Exactly. I'm the rapid response guy.
It was an amazing call, and I want to come back to something that we trailed last week as well, and I think Bob is paying particular attention on this stuff. On September the 16th, 2019, the Committee on Oversight and Reform sent a letter to the Honorable Elaine L. Chao, and the letter said, "Dear Madam Secretary, the committee is investigating several allegations relating to your service as Secretary of Transportation, including troubling questions about whether you are using your office to benefit yourself and your family." To Bob's point, is on a pox on both their houses, a plague on both their houses? Is this why? Was this a shot across the bow on September the 16th from the Democrats on the Oversight Committee to the wife of the Speaker, to Mitch McConnell,
The leader.
the leader,
Yep.
to say, hey, we know what you're all about. You try and come after us, we're gonna come after you.
100%. That's what I love most about that call is the truth and reconciliation. He tied it to history. He understands for the nations, for South Africa to go forward. I think also in Rwanda, it was also about the civil war there. They had to have truth and reconciliation. You had to have it all vetted in a public setting, right? With witnesses and testimony and evidence and people under penalty of perjury, and then only then could the nation's wounds be binded up and go forward, right? That's this deep wound of this constitutional crisis that Nancy Pelosi. If you've heard, what I think is most powerful today is the anguish of the people who are the constitutional conservative. We're all constitutional conservative, but there's certain people, and Jason, you know this from your professional life, that it is the defense of the Constitution, going forward for the good of the nation, whether it's AOC or wherever, Bernie Sanders, whether it's a socialist, wherever. The Constitution is paramount. You must defend that. And the anguish in the voices of the people today saying, hey, they've trashed the Constitution in this process, and we must defend this. This is what I think the truth and reconciliation is a great metaphor.
Yeah, I think it's exactly right. And to go back to that previous call, I want to also tie it back into what we saw Senator Cornyn say on Fox News a little bit earlier with these whole unintended consequences. I mean, what this is, that line.
That's what he's talking about.
That's
right?
what he's talking about. When someone says unintended consequences, that just means that they don't want to have the light shown on them, that they're not inherently supportive of President Trump, and they just want to go along to get along, and that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, that this ties directly in with the unintended consequences line.
By the way, I think we're gonna, when Beth and Bob host the show next week, I think we're gonna. I don't know if I make the cut as a caller anymore. Right? I'm not at that level. What do we got next, Raheem?
Michelle is in Pennsylvania on line 3. Michelle, welcome to Vox Populi. Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller. Michelle, are you with us?
I'm here. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, ma'am.
How are you?
Good. How can we help you?
I just wanted to. Good. I just wanted to chime in. First of all, I wholeheartedly agree with Beth. Unfortunately, I don't think that it will work politically for President Trump if we just go along to get along. I think we need to have a full trial. I think these frauds need to be exposed for who they are, and the frauds that have been selling the American people down the river for the past 35 years. And, quite frankly, I don't know who I can trust anymore, to be honest with you. I'm very worried about our country. very worried.
Let me ask you, Michelle. One of the people that's a little could be a little jiggy here is your Senator Pat Toomey in Pennsylvania. What would you tell Senator Toomey?
Yeah.
What would you tell Senator Toomey that he should focus on?
Well, Senator Pat Toomey will not get my vote. I can tell you that. I've voted for him in the past 2 elections that he's ran in, and I send a lot of correspondence to Senator Pat Toomey. But I would tell him he better get up off his, can I cuss him here? He better get up off his ass and do the right thing for the American people. Or he will not get my vote.
And what's your definition right now, as you see it, Michelle, before we go to another caller, what is your definition to Pat Toomey of what is right for the American people? How do you define that?
Well, we need to have a full trial. We need people to be exposed for who they are. And Pat Toomey is probably in that mix, unfortunately. And he's probably afraid of what will come out in a full trial. Because let's just face it, the establishment Republicans and the establishment Democrats are one and the same. And I'm fed up with them.
Michelle in Pennsylvania, thank you very much. Fantastic call. Jason, to you, I think what Michelle was referring to is the unintended consequences. Hey, be damned, full damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Yeah, and it's almost as if all of our friends in the Senate have forgotten President Trump's unity and substance from the beginning. He said, read the transcript.
And
we did nothing wrong.
This is also, hey, one Pennsylvania, he's an outsider. He's a disruptor. If people wanted the status quo, they had Hillary Clinton. She was the card-carrying union member of the status quo. Her whole pitch on national security policy, her whole pitch on the economy, her whole pitch on the globalist trade deals. She was, and I think she was probably the best representative that the status quo had. That is what the American people rejected, particularly in places that they told us. You remember, Jason, oh, you can't win Pennsylvania, you're wasting your time. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Iowa, the blue curtain. We were just wasting our time. And almost Minnesota by under one point, right?
Right. President Trump's win was an indictment on both parties, the failed leadership for the previous 2 decades, whether it be a Republican or a Democrat. And again, it starts first and foremost with foreign policy. Where did this whole impeachment drama start from? A foreign policy disagreement over Ukraine.
The Washington Consensus.
Right. Where is the next impeachment going to come from? A foreign policy disagreement with regard to Iran and the president's ability to take out a terrorist. This is what it's about. When you don't go along with them, they try to cheat and steal and do everything else to get around the rules.
Raheem, what do you got for us?
Hey, you know why? Why does it come back to foreign policy every time, right? We keep saying that. We haven't explained from episode 1 where we identified that it was about foreign policy. It's about foreign policy because they can get away with things at a foreign level. Right, getting away with money, getting away with all these links at a foreign level. Domestically, much harder to get away with that kind of thing. Much more oversight, much more transparency. Many more organizations dedicated to investigating that kind of thing. In Ukraine, not so much.
This is Vox Populi, 888-480-5646. It's episode 113 of War Room Impeachment. We want throughout the nation, throughout the world, we want all your calls. We're going to take a short commercial break. I'm going to return with Raheem Kassam. Of UKIP and Brexit fame, Jason Miller. Of the Trump 26 campaign and the transition, Stephen K. Bannon.
Bannon, Miller, Kassam. War Room Impeachment.
On the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Bannon, Miller, Kassam, and the nation. It's Vox Populi, episode 113 of War Room Impeachment. Remember, we're here every day, 7 days a week, and now often night. Tonight at 5 o'clock, we're going to have another wrap-up show. There's so much happening today. We're taking your calls at 888-480-5646. The boards are full. We're going to go to the boards in a second. We have some breaking news. Mr. Jason Miller, a former client of yours, I believe.
Yeah, so Senator Ted Cruz also joined Bill Hemmer on Fox News just a little bit ago. And
the junior senator from Texas.
Correct. And Hemmer just puts him right on the spot. Witnesses, yes or no? And Senator Cruz's response was, that's going to be, as I said, a hotly debated question within the Senate. And then he goes on to say that if you call one side, then you got to go and call the others. Something about due process. Can't be one-sided. And then whether there'll be witnesses or not, I think will be a close call in the Senate. Okay, Senator, you're not Charles Cook. political observer who's writing for, National Journal. You're not Stu Rothenberg who's writing for Roll Call. You're someone who's going to be voting on it. I want to see every Republican senator taking a bold stand like Rand Paul and saying, you know what? We are going to haul Where's Hunter? We're going to bring Whistleblower 2. Who knows what even happened to Whistleblower 2? Where'd they go? The IG, all Joe Biden, everyone who President Trump laid out. This shouldn't be a pontification matter.
I love Ted Cruz, and here's the thing: with the beard and with his new populist stance over the last couple of months, if he had been the new Ted Cruz on the campaign at the end, it'd have been a much even tighter. He was the last man standing. It'd have been even tighter. But this is not the Ted Cruz we've seen over the last 6 months. Ted Cruz has been a fire breather.
Yeah, Ted Cruz was the one who took the Senate to the brink to try to defund Obamacare. I mean, that's part of the reason why he became a hero to so many of us in the first place.
Absolutely.
He's the one who walked in there and blew up the whole Gang of Eight immigration amnesty deal.
Big time.
That's the flamethrower Ted
now,
Cruz.
He's kind of hinting there that you got to have witnesses on both sides, but it wasn't a bold, in-your-grill, here's what I got to do. It was being a pundit.
Yeah, and again, I am fully confident that Senator Ted Cruz will vote the right way
on
all
man.
these matters.
Cruz
But
is a
again,
great man.
This goes the difference between a vote and a voice. And the reason why we like Senator Ted Cruz, the reason why so many in the conservative limited government movement have been fans of his, is because he would go and be the absolute flamethrower. I don't like pontification.
Yeah, he's not shy. But okay, let's go to Raheem. We're going to go to Spokane, Washington, and Richard. Richard in Spokane, Washington. You're on the line. How can we help you, sir?
Oh yes, I just want to state that I just want a clean dismissal. But if they are going to have a trial and call witnesses, it is time then to play hardball. We need all our witnesses. I want Schiff call up there. I want a whole shooting match.
Do you think
we have to play?
Richard, let me ask you, your feel for the Trump base and the deplorables, where do you think they come down? In your mind, are they more for dismissal outright or more for, hey, let's go for it, throw down all witnesses, let them have Bolton, let them have Mulvaney, let them have the OMB emails, we don't care, give us a full trial. Where do you think the Trump base is on this topic?
That's a hard one. I have a lot of conservative friends. I've been in the conservative movement, when I got out of the service in 81. They're all over the place. I can tell you this: we're really in Trump's back pocket, more so than he may even realize. We're really tired of how he's been treated, and speaking for me, and I think I speak for a lot. The more he's attacked, the stronger our support.
Richard,
we just I want a clean break from this, dismiss it. But if we're going to fight, we need to fight like we mean to win.
Richard, thank you very much. Richard,
Thank you,
fantastic.
Richard.
Spokane, perfectly said. The base is now with him more than ever, and if we're going to fight, let's fight. Let's not have a cotillion. This is not a cotillion up on, And by the way, and this is the other false narrative. It's not about not decorum. You can have the decorum. Hey, look at some of the debates in the history of the country have taken place in the Senate. Things were heated. Right, you can still have look at the House of. You can still have decorum. You can still have gravitas. You can still have dignity, but you can bring the heat. Right, particularly with some of the quality people got. Can we do Idaho? Raheem, you're running the show.
I just want to. I am certainly not. I just want to break in here real quick. And we mentioned yesterday on the show that there was this Center for American Progress conference going on today. The
foreign policy.
The foreign policy conference. The swamp is back.
Yeah.
And it feels emboldened by a lot of what has been taking place. This is why I'm in favor.
He's impeached because he stood in opposition to this.
This is why I'm so in favor of lighting them all up in a long trial. But I want to bring you some news out of the National Security 100 Days Conference. This is, in their minds, the first 100 days of a Democrat president after 2020, after the 2020 election. Ambassador Rice says this morning at the conference that the U.S. needs to rebuild diplomatic capacity by sending career ambassadors to key capitals in Europe, partly to reassure our allies.
If you ever made an argument for a long trial, it's right there. This is Susan Rice, National Security Advisor. As President Trump would say, she's a beauty, right?
Yeah.
Her national security advice to President Obama That was terrific. That was great, right? We got Benghazi out of that. We got a whole host of things out of that. She wants no political appointees. She wants to send the career apparatus. Basically, the interagency Washington consensus. You saw testify, right? She wants the equivalent of Ambassador Taylor. She wants the equivalent of Fiona Hill. We're not questioning their patriotism. We're not questioning their dedication to their country. They're just wrong.
Yes.
Okay, they're just dead wrong. And the American people voted to say we don't want this anymore.
Yeah, and what's more dangerous about these people is that they're not willing to say when they're wrong. They're not willing to learn any lessons, and in fact, they are willing to use those positions that they hold, that they've had for decades, to go against the person that sets U.S. foreign policy. That's what makes them dangerous.
You know what I love? I love great opponents. That's why I love Nancy Pelosi and this thing is the master political strategist. I love their boldness. They're out here today at the beginning of the impeachment.
Yep.
And they get it. They connect the dots. They say, hey, he was just impeaching this. We're showing you, in particular showing all the Democrats in the opposition party, we're ready. The first 100 days of the new administration, because he's going to be either removed from office or so damaged in this process that the American people will vote him out.
Yep, that's right. And I guess, just correct me if I'm wrong, I guess we're live tonight at 5 p.m.
Yes,
as well.
we are. We'll
and at 5 p.m. we'll go through some more of what came out through the conference, but we'll also go through the other honey badger thing that they're doing right now, which is getting in our faces over Burisma. They say, the Russians hacked Burisma. You can't talk about
Last night,
Burisma.
it was amazing.
You can't have Where's Hunter up there.
Rachel Maddow had it up in the opening segment, gives you the whole thing, got the New York Times headlines, because it came from the paper of record. You know that.
And it's shameless. I know we're going to get some callers, but it's shameless in the sense that, these are CrowdStrike people that they have running this company.
Oh, I missed that.
Out of Silicon Valley.
I don't think that was quite highlighted.
I don't think Rachel Maddow would have informed her audience of the pedigree of these folks, but we're supposed to take their word that, hey, you can't talk about Burisma. That's why you can't have Where's Hunter up on trial, because Burisma's hacked by Russia, and therefore, if you want to put Hunter Biden on trial, you're helping the Russians. That's the narrative that they're sewing together right now.
This is also the worst thing about that New York Times thing for Rachel Maddow. She had taken the tinfoil hat off because she was so far into the Russian thing. Right, even to the demise of her show, people thought she got to be a kook. Now she's got the tinfoil hat back on. Okay, let's go. Jason in Idaho? Is he still on?
You want to go to Jason in Idaho on line 4?
Jason in Idaho.
Jason, welcome to Vox Populi.
Hey,
you with
guys.
us?
Hey, yeah, I'm with you. Thanks so much for taking my call. I appreciate what you guys are doing out there, speaking truth when the liberal media is out there with not even a show of credibility. It's good to have people like you on the air.
Thanks, brother.
My big thing, I don't think I'm alone here when I say that when I look at this whole thing, it's gross, it's disgusting, it's dirty, it's greasy, and I am, of course, talking about Steve's face.
God, you're killing me. What do you got for us?
You're a monster, Steve. You're an actual monster. You're going to go down in history as one of the true monsters.
Thanks.
You know?
Hold on.
I love it.
Hey, brother, I appreciate that. Hey, I hate it when my agent calls. Thank you very much for the call. By the way, I hate it when my agent calls.
By the way, I've been waiting and hoping for that moment for so very long. Because you know what that means? That means we made it. We're in their heads. They're downloading the podcast. They're listening live to the extended shows, and they're calling in.
I mean, this isn't even like the Newsmax broadcast or the Salem radio.
We're in the live stream. We're in the live stream.
How long did this guy sit on hold?
I tell you.
Oh, he was on hold a while.
Yeah,
he was on hold a while.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's a full heckle. Jason was a great tee up too.
I used to loathe when I wouldn't get those sorts of calls because it meant that I wasn't triggering them right, and I just love that. We only do have a little bit of time left, so I want to get some of the serious callers.
I want to go to Dennis in Texas. Dennis in Texas. We want some of the Texans to respond. We got Cornyn and we got Ted Cruz. Dennis, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How about yourself? You guys are having a great show.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. I'm gonna go take a short break and scrub up, though. Clearly, the guys out in Idaho, the preppers out there, I'm not clean enough.
But he did say you're going to go down in history.
I'm going to go in history.
I mean, you're going to be in history. So
Hey,
that's
what can you
even
say?
the haters know you're going to be your massive
Historical figure.
Historical figure.
Okay, well, Dennis. Dennis, you're from Texas. We got John Cornyn. Jason's done a good job of John Cornyn and Ted Cruz. Tell us what you guys think out there.
Well, I've already left a nice curt message on his answering machine in Washington. I saw that interview on Fox News. I saw Ted Cruz this morning, And my comments are really the same as like Beth in North Carolina and Bob in Arizona, and I'll even toss a yellow ribbon over to Tony in Orlando as well. I mean, the key here is exposure. This is all about fear of exposure for politicians in Washington. I mean, and Trump knows this. Okay, and the big question is going to be who. If the senators are going to rally around themselves and other politicians to protect them or protect the president. I mean, the whole concept of drain the swamp, I think that this goes a step further. I think President Trump really planned on a long trial because he knows that that for drain the swamp to be effective, the public has to be educated. And his best form for doing that would be in an unfiltered way in a long trial in the Senate. President Trump is a master media manipulator, and it goes back. There's a lot of evidence to that. He was out on the trail in 2018 saying that the key is the Senate. He was campaigning for specific senators all along the way. I believe he knew he was going to get impeached.
Dennis,
and I would disagree.
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
I'm sorry.
No, keep going, sir. You're on a roll.
I would disagree with Jason Miller in the sense that it's all about foreign policy. I think foreign policy is the excuse. I think the real foundation here is the corruption. They don't want people to come out. They don't want any of this exposed. I mean, we can talk about a witness list. We can talk about the main players, like the first and second whistleblower. We can talk about Joe and Hunter Biden. Well, but let's go into some of the ones we haven't talked about. How about Nancy Pelosi? And we'll talk about her son's involvement in Ukraine. How about John Kerry? And we'll talk about his son.
The Heinz boy. Yep, big time. Christopher Heinz.
How about there's a lot of roads that are corrupt roads that lead from Washington to Ukraine, and I don't think anybody ever wanted to know about that. And the longer this goes, how about if we get Tom Fitton up there and we talk to him about his success in getting FOIA documents from the State Department versus Adam Schiff getting them, and the difference in the timeline. That'll lead you to Brennan. That'll lead you to Clapper. That'll lead you to all these people. And in the Senate trial, the senators have to sit there and listen to it. They have to take it. They can't move, and the press can't filter it. And I think that's what Donald Trump planned for all along, and that's the best way for him to get reelected and really to drain the swamp.
Let me jump in here for a second. It's fantastic, okay? Because you're saying, hey, they can't spin this. It's going to be right there. It's going to be in the Senate. You get to hear it all. Are you afraid, as many people running around this town, Dennis? Are you afraid of the law of unintended consequences that Cornerstone out? Are you afraid of John Bolton? Are you afraid of Mick Mulvaney, what they would say? Are you afraid of any of the emails in OMB or between Defense Department? Is there anything there that you fear offset by what you just laid out as what you want to see as the full trial?
Not in the least, because you think John Bolton would really compare to what Nancy Pelosi would say about her son in Ukraine? Really? I mean, or what John Kerry would say? Or how about John Kerry talking to all these people? Maybe we ought to bring it up that John Kerry's in-laws are involved in Iran. He's married into an Iranian family.
Lindsey, hang over a second. Lindsey Graham is telling everybody. I think he's telling the press, telling everybody. Says, "Hey, I hear Dennis in Texas. I got it, but I'll do that in the Judiciary Committee. I'll have some hearings in the Judiciary Committee, and we'll handle it that way." What say you, Dennis?
With all due respect to Lindsey Graham, I mean, he was literally joined at the hip with John McCain. We need another 2 hours to talk about John McCain and what his activities were overseas and what his activities were in the terrorist community and how much he hated Donald Trump. I don't think Lindsey Graham for a second wanted to expose all of that. That's why all he does is talk. He never has hearings. He never brings people up and puts them under oath because Cornyn's quote-unquote unintended consequences will lead right to the corrupt politicians, many of whom are in the U.S. Senate.
Dennis, we got to jump. I want to thank you so much for the call. Call's absolutely brilliant. We want to give the Senate call number again, Jason? Dennis already made his call, but maybe we want to make another. That was a fabulous
Thank
call.
you. And Dennis, sounds like you called, please make sure you call both Ted and John's offices there in Texas. But for your senator, call 202-224-3232. 3121. That's the main Senate switchboard. Just ask for your senator. They'll direct you to him. And then if you want to call any of the House members, if you want to call Speaker Pelosi or even one of the good guys like Congressman Mark Meadows, that's 202-225-3121.
I want to go to Raheem very quickly.
Yeah, by the way, if you're going to say something nice to the good guys, make sure you tell them we sent you.
Yes. And, here's what I want to do, though, for you. Dennis brings up something. Go back. We said this at the very beginning of when we first started the thing. You were in Ukraine in 2013 at the beginning of this whole Ukrainian debacle. Who was there? You were covering it for Breitbart at the time. Was it called the Maidan Revolution?
Yeah, the Maidan Revolution.
Maidan Revolution. And who was there?
The Revolution of Dignity. Well, I'll tell you who was there. I mean, the first time we walked out, and we were staying at the hotel right in the middle of the square. It was freezing. I mean, not DC freezing. I mean Siberian freezing, right? I had 5 layers on. We had to take a little coffee cup with us everywhere we went, and I had a hip flask in my pocket filled with whiskey. We would stop every 20 or 30 meters as we were walking through the whole thing to gather around flaming trash cans with a lot of the people out there. Protesters, tourists, journalists, people who were just coming to see what was going on. And as we made our way through the crowds, it became very apparent to us, my friend Christian and I, we went together, it became very apparent to us that what was going on was relatively well staged. There was an EU tent where you could go and get flags to wave for the cameras and all of this stuff. And there was a counter-protest as well, a pro-government counter-protest, the deposed government counter-protest, which was equally staged, where they would rotate protesters in, feed them some buckwheat, not kidding, feed them little things of buckwheat, and send them on their way after their 2-hour shift. And so here you had a globalist European Union organization versus this sort of nationalist pro-Russia organization. Neither are good sides, if you ask me. I started talking to some guys, and they were standing around one of the cans and were showing us some identification documents. And they identified themselves as neo-Nazis. And of course, that was a massive shock to me. 2013 in a pretty metropolitan city like Kiev, these guys were just openly calling them, saying, "Hey, we're neo-Nazis. Here's what we believe," etc., etc. A couple of days later, as they have they have a big stage there in the Maidan Square, where people can come, give speeches, show from all around the world, show support. A couple of days after that, you had John McCain, Senator McCain, stand up on that stage, not just to help with this overthrow of an elected president in Ukraine, not just to expand the EU's borders up to the Russian border and cause all this geopolitical crisis, but standing side by side, shoulder to shoulder with one of the leaders of the neo-Nazi party, the Svoboda party, saying, this is fine. As long as my enemy's enemy is my friend, this is fine. And I don't mean neo-Nazi the way Don Lemon uses the phrase. I mean real, avowed neo-Nazis, right? And this was somebody who John McCain, and I'm afraid to some extent Lindsey Graham, who was on that trip as well, were fine with standing by. And guess who else was in the picture, pictured with them at the time? The ambassador, who President Trump said, you know, she's going to have some awkward things happen to her. She was with them on that trip too, and we heard from her during this trial. So everything, I mean, here's the thing. It didn't start in Ukraine, but that was a place where a lot of this stuff dovetailed. And I knew it was going to happen. In 2000, I didn't realize it would lead to an impeachment, but I realized that there was a major geopolitical misstep taking place here. The US government, the UK government, the European Union, all on the wrong side there.
Real quickly, and we're going to take another call before we got to go. But tonight on 5 o'clock, we've got some breaking. You're going to have some breaking analysis about this whole Russia. This is their whole new movement. It was on fire last night. The New York Times reported that Russia has hacked Burisma.
Yeah.
Right. So Russia and Putin and Trump are working together again. Right. Right on the eve of the trial. It was a totally random, coincidental drop of that information.
You know, when they have had a sniff, when they have had a sense that you might somehow end up with Hunter Biden, or where's Hunter rather, going up there to stand trial, suddenly they drop this thing which makes it very difficult from a moral perspective to say you can attack Burisma, because now Burisma is the victim. You know, this is one of the most corrupt businesses in the entirety of Europe. maybe one of the most corrupt businesses in the entirety of the Western world. But between Rachel Maddow, the New York Times, the Associated Press, over the last 24 hours, we've seen a strategy deployed by which to protect Burisma.
Give the email address again, because we want your emails to come in. We review all the emails. We're going through them now, but I want to talk about one of the very first emails we talked about. You mentioned in the break and what we said earlier about ABC Nightline.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Going through this, so the email address is fight@warroom.org. If you want to get in touch with us, if you haven't been able to get through on the show,
and particularly we want all the haters out there. We love haters. We love haters. Come on, we're honey badgers. We love haters.
There was an email from, I won't give the full name in case they don't want to be known, but a guy called Chuck, and Chuck said on the 9th of December. Sent us an email and said, please keep up with the good work. You're covering issues no one else is. When I first became aware of your daily broadcast, do you know what it reminded me of? The beginnings of Nightline during the Iran hostage crisis. Do you guys recall how Nightline started as America held hostage, day 231, etc.? Once President Trump is vindicated, I'm sure the Dems will not abandon their fight against his agenda. Will you guys consider keeping the show live once this immediate crisis is over? Just like ABC did.
We will take that under advisement. Okay, Vox Populi, we appreciate your efforts. We'll be back at 5 p.m. tonight with episode 114 of War Room Impeachment.